Welcome to Wish I Had Known, the show where hindsight meets insight. Host Jody Lamb has worn many hats in the world of finance, from navigating the intricacies of financial planning to unraveling the mysteries of insurance claims and diving deep into the realm of structured settlements. Each episode explores the topics that make you say, if only I had known this sooner. Join the conversation as we uncover the insights that can make all the difference. This is Wish I Had Known, because knowledge is power and hindsight is 20/20.
If you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of connection, you're in the right place. Hello, and welcome to Wish I Had Known, the series where hindsight is not just 20/20, but information to help guide us through daily decisions and future opportunities. I'm your host, Jody Lamb. Today we jump into the world of financial consulting with seasoned expert from Jackson Square Financial, going to help us navigate through complexities of investment and financial planning with over 3 decades of experience with Bill Vlahos. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us, Bill.
Thank you. Those 3 decades seem a little telling. I think I feel like I'm aging in front of you.
I'm not far behind you. I think I have a couple years and then I get to claim that one for myself too. Time flies when we're having fun. How did you get into this industry, Bill? Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sure. Well, it's kind of an interesting story. So I grew up in San Francisco and I went to school at UCLA. And when I was a senior at UCLA, my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. Now, she ended up living several more years. But so my dad called me, and among other things, he said, we don't have a will or a trust. We haven't done any estate planning. Can you help me? And I'm like, I'm just a dumb college kid. Like, I don't know. But we figured it out. So we figured out, basics of, setting up a will and a trust, and found an attorney and figured it all out and set up an estate plan for my parents. And then after that, my dad called and said, I've always been a good saver, but my money's not working very hard. Can you help me figure out an investment plan? I'm like, I'm just a dumb college kid, but I guess. So we figured it out and put a plan in place. And so then I was getting closer to graduating. And I thought all of this was really interesting. And I thought I had an aptitude for it. So I started working as a financial advisor and joined a firm and became a partner. And then fast forward, as you alluded to, 3 decades later, I'm a partner at Jackson Square. We provide we're a full service financial advisory firm working with individuals and families.
So when you were in school, just kid, helping your parents out, navigating, life choices like estates, wills, planning. What was your area of study in your undergrad?
I was political science and took a lot of econ classes and really had at the time no idea what I was interested in doing. I just picked political science. I thought it was interesting, and I figured everything else would take care of itself. But I also took some classes that I thought could be helpful in a broader, in the broader business world. Like I took accounting classes and business classes. So it was kind of in the back of my mind, but really I had no idea.
Okay, so I can relate. I was going through school, went through enough finance classes, ended up in enough insurance classes. I enjoyed what I was doing, but ended up with a concentration in insurance with a finance degree. So in hindsight, you feel like the political science route was a good start for you? Would you have done anything different in hindsight in that respect?
I'm of the opinion life's a journey, and I enjoyed it and thought it was interesting. So I would say yes, from that perspective. I'm not so sure how much of it is so applicable to what I do now. Probably, I don't know if how much of college in general is that applicable. But I would certainly say the accounting. I mean, I really think that, accounting is really important. It's the basis of all business. So I think probably the accounting classes were probably the most helpful.
Right. So we get a little bit of taste of everything when we're in school. And when we get out into the real world, we figure out what we got to do and the adulting responsibilities of life. And often that includes financial planning, dealing with investments for both short and long-term needs. Is there any particular area of expertise that you work in, Bill, and information that you want to share for today's audience member that you might think would be particularly helpful in their future choices and navigating their own investments?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but yeah, I mean, I think we're a full service financial advisory firm, and we really very much consider ourselves our clients' financial director. So we're involved in all parts: risk management, investment management, estate planning, family office. We're sort of the hub of all of those things. And I would say, while the investment management is probably the sexiest and most interesting, as a practice, we also make sure all the clients' risk management is all sewn up tightly. What we don't want to see is we don't want to see some barb come out of left field and torpedo our client. So, almost like a doctor that does no harm at first, we make sure all that is sewn up. So a couple examples is, first of all, is we make sure all of our clients have a large umbrella policy. So we don't even sell umbrella policies. We don't even do them ourselves, but we make sure all the clients have them, because especially in this litigious society, I could tell you horror stories for hours. We have several hundred clients in our practice, and we've seen everything, including the client who was driving at night and wasn't drinking but hit a pedestrian. Pedestrian was a plastic surgeon, couldn't work, an enormous lawsuit. Fortunately, the client had a big umbrella policy, so they were protected. On a less dramatic scale, recently we had a client whose dog knocked over one of these guys on an electric scooter. The guy breaks his arm. He goes to the hospital, says he can't work, says he doesn't get a job, sues our client. So, that's one example of the risk management that we make sure the clients are sewn up. Another is just the basic life insurance. We make sure that the clients, if they don't have a really large amount of liquid assets, they have the right amount of life insurance to make sure that that if something, God forbid, happened to them, their kids or dependents, their kids' college, their kids' wedding, all of that's taken care of. Usually the term insurance is great, it's inexpensive. And then the third thing, which we see, which is probably the biggest hole in people's financial lives, is long-term care. So traditionally, the long-term care policies have not been that attractive, but nowadays they're much, much better. They can only go up 3% a year in terms of the premium. And usually if the client never needs it, them or their estate can get their premiums back. So they lose the time value of money, but who cares? So those are kind of some examples of things that we always try to circle up first. And then we go on and generally do a full financial plan for clients, retirement savings, retirement calculations, educational projections, cash flow, anything that you possibly can imagine. And then the last stage is the more sexy stuff, the investment management, making sure that their portfolio is aligned with their goals and objectives and income needs and risk tolerances. So that's kind of a long-winded answer to your question.
You got three key areas there, and you covered them well. It is a lot to unpack. Jumping back to the first point when you were talking about the umbrella policy, I was just on the phone this morning with my agent about my own personal umbrella policy, and we doubled my limits. It's important to not only have the coverage, but keep an eye on, where you are in your life and what it makes sense to be able to protect your family.
Well, that's true. And the other thing that people don't think about is when you have a larger policy, you'll get better lawyers. So the insurance company, if you have a small umbrella policy, you're probably going to get, the C or B attorney, because the insurance company doesn't have a lot of exposure. But if you have a bigger liability policy, the insurance company has more exposure. You're more likely going to get the better attorneys, which, if you're in an unfortunate situation, is really important.
Well, if you're definitely on that end of that conversation, you want to make sure you have great representation. I'll also add that one of the key things for me, and it's a deal breaker on my umbrella policy, is to make sure that it includes first party coverage. So the underinsured and the underinsured coverage to protect my family, as well as if I would, be in an accident where I was responsible, to be able to make sure that they're taken care of. So ensuring the people not only who could come in harm's way, but also potentially cause harm to my family, to make sure that we have sufficient coverage in place as well. But that's a great point about, if you need a defense attorney, the more money on the line, the more your insurance company is probably going to invest in an attorney to make sure that you're properly protected. That's great insight. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and great point on the first insured.
Yeah. I've dealt with too many claims. Bill, I've worked together on a case before. We never know when the unforeseeable is going to happen. And insurance is one of those things that, in hindsight, we wish we had always bought more. We wish we would have always had that conversation to set up the wills, the trusts, the appropriate coverage for not just the sexy investment stuff, but also the very basic, homeowners, auto, and just making sure that our estates are properly prepared. Bill, if we need to reach out to you, what's the best way to contact you?
Probably the best way is just good old-fashioned email, bvlahos@jsfin.com, VLAHOS.
Awesome. We'll make sure we put that in the comment notes as well. For the listener out there who really is excited about digging in, kind of unpacking what they have, maybe identifying what they may still need, what can they expect in this journey? What kind of timeline or what kind of process is involved with this whole package? I mean, from step 1 to 3, that could be a significant amount of effort, but what does that typically involve when you're working with someone for the first time?
Great question. I mean, typically we'll just do an initial get to know call and kind of talk about things from 30,000 feet, just to see if it's a good fit, both sort of their financial situation and most importantly, their personality. And my personal rules, I only work with nice people. That's kind of like my one etched in stone rule. So we generally do a first call and just kind of see if it's a good personality fit and our sort of philosophy is consistent with them and what they're looking for. I didn't really say anything about our firm, but we've been in business 31 years. We're 15 people. I'm one of the 5 partners of the firm. And generally what we find is that people really like that sort of size firm because we've been in business a long time and we're substantial, but we're not too big that people are going to get lost in the weeds. And myself and my partners own the firm. So, we care a lot. It's not like our firm's is a big public company or owned by shareholders or anything like that. So typically we'll have a first conversation to see if it's a good fit. And, oftentimes clients at that point will say, okay, let's go forward, or we'll have another conversation regardless. And we generally call that our values and visions conversation, or that's where we go deeper, where we try to understand everything about the client, like what makes them tick, what are their goals, what are their objectives, what are they trying to accomplish? What's their risk management? Have they done estate planning? What does that look like? Does that estate plan need to be changed or modified? What are their current investment assets? What are their cost bases? Does that portfolio align with what they want to accomplish? So that's what we call our values and visions conversation. Generally, at the end of that meeting, the client usually wants to proceed. And the third step would be we generally do a financial plan for clients. Sometimes we don't do it if their situation is relatively simple, but then we'll do a full financial plan incorporating everything we learned in the values and visions discussion. So we'll do a full plan and put all their assumptions, their income, their retirement dates. It's very comprehensive. We'll include projections for when they would collect Social Security, at what age, any assets they own, real estate, the cost basis of that real estate. Would it be sold in a certain time? If they own stock options, we'd include that. We'd break it down to the options and the cost basis. We basically include everything that they own financially, and then we would provide them with a financial plan. And then the fourth step is most of the clients that we do a financial plan, we also manage assets for, not all of them, but most of them. And in that case, we would start to execute. We would open accounts and start managing the investment assets. And if we needed to procure any risk management policies, life insurance, long-term care, we would do that. And then on an ongoing basis, we manage the account, we talk to our clients regularly, we update the financial plan generally once a year. So that's kind of our roadmap.
Yeah, it's just a Wednesday. Just every single day, just knocking things out, getting things done, and making sure that we're protected. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do you have any final words of wisdom or wish I had known insight or experiences that you want to share before we end today?
Well, I know you're a structured settlement expert, so I thought I would just touch on that. So we do a fair amount of structured and unstructured settlements, and how that business came in is kind of an interesting story. So our firm, we own our building, and the firm, we're 15 people, and we sublease some tenants. So one of our clients and tenants is a personal injury attorney. And she walked into my office one day and said, "You're now in the structured settlement business." And I said, "Oh, what's that?" And she's like, "It's everything you already do, but you don't call it that." Um, and so I started working with her on unstructured and structured settlements. And it's basically everything we already do in terms of financial planning and insurance products. And I'll just say that, thoroughly enjoyed working on our recent case. And I think we make a great team, and I hope that we can collaborate on many more in the future.
Well, thank you, Bill. Yes, it was a delight to work with you. Yeah, we do exactly what you do. We just get to do it in a little bit more interesting way, just tied to the personal injury and the employment litigation cases. We have a follow-up conversation to have. There's conversation or opportunity to even structure sale of businesses and properties, but we'll save that for another Wish I Had Known conversation. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insight and inspiration for us all. Like as an adult, it's our responsibility to make sure we're taking care of our family and our children. And if we're involved in an accident, the insurance makes sure that we're taking care of the other party as well, so that we can continue to live our life with financial security, comfort, and confidence. Professionals like you make that possible. Thank you for joining us, Bill.
Thank you.
If you have any other questions, or if you have any insight or stories that you'd like to share, feel free to reach out. #AskJody. Today's been a wonderful, exciting conversation. I appreciate you joining us next time for lessons and moments of reflection. Until then, take care, keep learning, and may more forward opportunities present themselves with clarity and wish I had known insight that you don't have to navigate, because now you know. Have a great day.
For listening to today's episode. Please like, share, and subscribe so you can hear all of Jody's chats, so you don't have to say, "Wish I had known."